Newcastle United will not be playing European football next season. Amanda Staveley has given an honest answer to the criticism of the Australian trip and is one of Newcastle's players that was set to walk through the door in the next week or so, heading somewhere else. Yes, guys, welcome back to Toon Tuesdays, your weekly roundup of Newcastle United news. Hope you guys all had a lovely bank holiday weekend. I was out on Saturday for the FA Cup final and then pretty much lay in bed for 2 days. And now I'm trying to get me brain working again for being back at work. I'm up early this morning. I've got to come out and do this before I head into the office. If you guys are not subscribed, be sure to do so. Be sure to hit that big red button. It just means you guys get notified every time I post a video. And despite the fact that the actual playing football is over, I expect it to be very, very busy and lots going on this summer. So be sure you do not miss out. So yeah, quickly touch on the Manchester United versus Manchester City game on Saturday. As I mentioned, I barely remember watching an FA Cup game of late, to be honest. It's been a very long time since Newcastle were in a final of an FA Cup. I did go out, I did watch the Saturday game, and Man City have won everything, except for the 90 minutes that we support them, and they are terrible. They were useless. They deserved to lose that game. Manchester United had their number. They win it. They get Europe. Newcastle are the first or second team in like 15 years to finish 7th and not get European football. It is just so Newcastle United, and you know, I could blame Man City, but really it's all our fault. It is our fault. We should have had it tied up ages ago. You know, there's loads of reasons. You could talk about the defending or the amount of goals we scored this season, you know, and the most we've ever scored in the Premier League, or as many as I've ever remembered, more than Kevin Keegan and the Entertainers, and still didn't get the job done is crazy. But I've got people, my mates in the pub saying, but Rob, it means that because we're not in Europe, it means we can concentrate on the League Cup, we can concentrate on the FA Cup, we can concentrate on getting top 4, we can consolidate with less injuries, and look, that's all very true, and I've no doubt we will use that to our advantage in the coming season. If we get back to Wembley, or we get a great League Cup run again or whatever, and they'll be going, I told you, Rob. Yeah, I get it, but for me, honestly, I just think for the natural progression of the club, we should want Europe in any form, whether it's Champions League, Conference, whatever. And I think and we haven't got it. So look, we'll get on and we'll crack on without it. But I think it adds pressure for next season, though. I think it really does, because yes, it's fine to say, well, we didn't have it this season, but that puts the pressure on to make sure we go and get, you know, it has to be, the aim has to be top 4 for next season. I don't think it can be, oh yeah, well, if we can get 7th or 6th, it has, without Europe this season, we have to be aiming for the top. And there's pressure on the club to go and achieve that, and there'll be pressure on Eddie Howe as well. So yes, a big part of that will be this summer window. A big part of that will be how we bring players back from injury. Tonali's coming back. There's going to be a lot going on, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. But in terms of pressure and having to go out and make things work, I think that was the Australia trip. That was what it was. We literally finished the Brentford game. We got on a flight to Australia. We woke up the next morning after a 24-hour flight and played a football game. And rightly so, Newcastle fans have come out and criticised the decision of that trip. But really, it's done. It's gone. We're moving on with our lives. And really, I think a lot of people did ask kind of questions of the football club of why did we do it and what's going on. And I think that losing 8-0, basically putting a bunch of, well, Newcastle's, you know, without disrespect, you know, the youth team, I was going to say the kids team, that is disrespectful. A lot of under-20s, a lot of under-21s went out and got thrashed 8-0 to an Australia 11. And look, by this point, it's over. I'm already sad about the cup, whatever. But Amanda Staveley came out the weekend and gave a very honest response to the criticism, which I had not expected, to be honest. I thought they would just kind of push it under the carpet and everyone would forget about it. But Amanda Staveley had come out and said that she's seen a lot of the comments about the NUFC Australia trip, which I'd like to address. Besides being a shareholder, I am first and foremost a fan, and as a fan, I understand that the trip was controversial. However, personal opinions aside, revenue-generating trips are crucial to the club's commercial success. The decision was taken by management, and ultimately I had to support their decision. Nobody wants a fresh team ready for the new season as much as I do, and we are doing everything we can to support the manager in achieving this. Murder and I had a very productive working trip to Monaco with a potential sponsor, and I'm looking forward ahead to the new season. We are united. So, by the way, first of all, big up Amanda, being very honest. Like, she shouldn't have to do that. I think it was quite well understood by the fans that trip was not to go and get some extra fitness. If anything, they could have done with a week in bed. Fair enough, head to Australia, but let them go and have a few barbecues. Although, having said that, the weather wasn't even great out there, so it wasn't even a nice warm weather trip. They went out, played a game, and they were all desperate to come home. Trippier didn't want it. Eddie Howe didn't want it. They said as much. So I think it's big that Amanda has come out and actually spoken about it. What's interesting as well is that she mentioned the new sponsor, which people have got excited about. She deleted that message, by the way. I think it was on Instagram she posted it originally. She deleted it off, probably because someone called her up and said stop leaking information on the new sponsorship, because otherwise I think what she said was quite right and quite honest. Or maybe they don't want to be that transparent with some of this kind of thing. But I think that's one thing we've all learned with the new management, is they are going to make mistakes. Things aren't always going to be right, but at least they've got they're big and bold and are coming out and telling us straight. And we've all kind of spoken about, that's why we thought the trip was happening. It was originally rumoured Newcastle were making 5-6 million. It's now being said it's closer to 2 or 3. And look, by the way, if you're thinking you're going to go out there and build a huge commercial brand off the back of losing 8-0, I don't think it's. Having said that, we did play the Spurs game. That was probably the bigger one that was probably watched by more Australian fans. And look, maybe some did watch it and have fell in love with Bruno, or the 5 minutes that Murphy was on the pitch and gone, you know what, that's the team I want to support. But the other side of it is how many fans walked into that stadium on the Friday expecting, and then watched them lose 8-0 and went, I am not going to support this team. So it's fair enough you want to go and make commercial money out of it, but there's no point of doing it, in my opinion. If having said that, if we get 3 million and that's, pays for the wages of some of the players we're being linked to, there's some of them, maybe it was exactly what we needed and it was exactly worth it. But yeah, in hindsight, maybe not great. So look, some of those moments over the last weekend haven't been too good, but we push forward, we look to the future. And there's been a few players linked away. Southampton went and won the championship, didn't they? A couple of players that you might have well forgotten about. Ryan Fraser, he was part of that. He is still on the books at Newcastle. And it's understood that as Southampton have been promoted, he will now make the transfer over to them on a permanent, which is very good news for us, especially considering Eddie Howe effectively kicked him out of the squad because he wasn't trying, that's what's rumoured anyway, and to move him on. Other players expected to leave the club now are the likes of a Richie and a Dummett, because we haven't got European football. And again, you look at things that could be a positive. I never want to say that letting players go or having players who've been here for 15 years leave is necessarily a positive, but in the grand scheme of having a real squad overhaul, I think this is the summer we've got to do it. Having said that, we want to bring a lot of players in and we're going to have less matches to play in, and because of that, I think it will. Look, there's no bones about it. I understand. Is that the saying? Bugs about it? Making things up. There's no denying, for me, I get it. Players need to come and play for Newcastle because we are Newcastle United and we have a project and they want to play for the badge. But don't get me wrong, without European football as something for players to come into, I think is tougher for us this window. And I also think because when we want to have this big squad, that's what we've always talked about. We want to have the big squad. Players are going to be less inclined to join, knowing that it's a big squad and knowing that they may well get less football. Which brings us on to the Tosin story, the player that Newcastle have been heavily linked with throughout all summer, alongside Lloyd Kelly. Well, it's thought that we are very much about to bring one of them in, but the other looks like he may well not anymore. According to reports from Sky Sports and Keith Downey, Lloyd Kelly, as far as I'm aware, is pretty much signed, sealed and delivered, although I never like to run things too quickly. I said from the very beginning, the likelihood of Newcastle bringing in 2 centre-backs on free transfers is astonishing. You know what I mean? Like, to have 2 players of the same position join in the space of a week of each other is huge, because they're both on free transfers, so for Newcastle to get in there early and get them both done is insane. But also for the players themselves, because they want to go in knowing they're going to get first team football. They've got a lot of options. They're on free transfers. They can pretty much go anywhere they want. They can probably get paid whatever they want by a lot of different clubs. So to be able to say, oh yeah, I know he's joining, but I'm going to go in there, I'm going to fight it out. Like, really, as a player, you want to go in knowing that you're guaranteed football. You don't really want to go in knowing that I'm going to have to fight for my place, especially when there's other teams around where you could probably walk in into the starting 11. So I already thought it was tough, but I felt like Newcastle had enough to offer. The project, the stadium, the fans, probably willing to pay a decent wage for them both, and also offering European football, because look, we're going to have the League Cup, we're going to have the FA Cup, we're going to have the Premier League, and we're going to have Europe. We could have 3 games a week, and saying to them, look, you might not be nailed on every single game, but we have enough games to play you both. Well, we don't anymore. And now, I think possibly unsurprisingly, it looks like one of those players may well be heading somewhere else. Keith Downey, Sky Sports, reporting that Chelsea are now in for Tosin. There's been heavy rumours that Manchester United were in links as well, but the Newcastle were the ones leading the pack. The narrative has definitely changed on this one, and I would be surprised if Tosin did come to Newcastle United, which I think is a loss. I think, personally, of the pair, I think Tosin is possibly the more attractive of the two. Not to say that Lloyd Kelly isn't still a good player, and I think would be great for us, but I just feel like we had that moment to bring in both, and now that is possibly lost. Now, I agree with a lot of the comments that have been coming in on other videos and online to say, if he doesn't want it, we don't want him either. And I agree, because at the end of the day, we want players who are here for the journey. And that's what you also hope with the likes of a Bruno and HIJACK will continue at Newcastle. They won't just jump ship because they joined for that long-term project. I think there's no doubt when they came in, they were sold on the 5-year deal. They were told, look, we probably won't have Europe in the next 2 years, but we will have it in the 3rd, we will have it in the 4th, we will have it in the 5th. We overachieved very, very early, and then that suddenly skews what people are expecting or are hoping for in a season. But it's no doubt that Newcastle are, despite maybe a slight trough or even a slight decline, will always be up. That's the thing we know with these owners is, yes, things won't always be this. I mean, no one in football is that. Even Man City won the Premier League and then lost the FA Cup. Even the best teams in the world do not do this. And Newcastle United is the same. Newcastle United had been that for a very long time, and we are at times going to level off. We're going to have bad games, but the natural graph will always be there, and I think we'll always be there from here out. God, I'm just making words up today. I need to get me coffee. It is. I need to go and get myself together. We'll always be that, and if it takes a bit of time for a player doesn't want to be here and whatever, we will get there. But I think it's very important that we do keep the likes of Bruno and HIJACK, and I think they will stay. Personally, I think HIJACK's nailed on to stay for me. Bruno, I get it, but I think he has another year. I really do, at least, and that's why next season becomes so important, because it's anyhow, it's the players who want to keep. It is this. So give me your thoughts down below. I think it's going to be a big summer. I think there's going to be a lot going on. I get it. I think the lack of Europe will make it tougher, but I think we've got a hell of a lot to offer, and I still think we've got a lot to give these players that want to join this club to push on and have a very big season. Thanks for watching Toon Tuesdays, guys. As I mentioned, if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to hit that big red button. It costs nothing. It's free. It just means you guys help me out and push the channel a little bit further. If you are interested, be sure to go and check out my Patreon and members. Links down in the descriptions. Those are the guys who help me continue running this free channel, so I really appreciate it. Extra content over there if you want to go check it out. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy your Tuesday. Plenty more videos this week, and I'll catch you later.